Alrighty, let's just get the show on the road. Everything's working. Feels like I haven't done this in months. Alright, we are live. I'm actually starting on time. Hello, Aiden. First person that I've greeted on 2021. Hello. 30 Sun Bro. Nice. Hey, how's it? Corey. Kairos. Hey, guys. John. Nice to see you. Yeah, what's up? James. Shake Scan. Corey. Moonring. Nice to see you. Demon Spectre. Another Shaw. Keto Vash. Eric. Pale Rider. Brian. Game Investigator. And Deviled Ham. Nice to see you. Cameron. How's it going? Well, what have we got to talk about this new podcast, this new live stream of 2021? I've got a dictionary of mythology, which I got as a Christmas present from my parents, and this thing is absolutely packed with information about all sorts of different mythologies from around the world, including North American, Japanese, Inuit, British, Norse, Greek, of course, Roman, Egyptian, Irish, African, some Polynesian, lots of Polynesian. So it's really, really interesting. And, of course, Chinese. So I've been reading that quite avidly, as well as, of course, dipping into Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, which is an okay book so far. And I've been reading my way through Alderant's Guide to the Plains Acheron as well. So that's been my holiday reading. Not that I've been doing a lot of reading, actually, because I've been mostly sunbaking on scorching hot beaches. So not a lot of reading involved unless I was to protect my eyes from back glare from the paper. Hey, Jesse, yeah, you did. You caught a live stream. Well done. Bree is currently eating her breakfast. She's next door. She hasn't transferred over to my flat yet because she was getting babysat by my parents while I was away on holiday. And I'm just waiting until things have settled a bit more before we can introduce her to my environment, which is different from theirs. But she's doing well. She's entered that lanky stage of kitten growth. And much like me, she sleeps all day and plays all night. First mention of Mixer Jar Chisels for 2021. Ban! How would you port Demons from the Doom series to tabletop? I remember there were limited time Doom miniatures from Reaper Miniatures. Pretty much the same way Warhammer 40k would. So you would say that there's an incursion of like... there's a mix-up between like the Far Realm and the Far Reaches of the Abyss, and it spills over into reality. So wizards suddenly, whenever they try and teleport, are teleporting through this medium that they didn't have to before, which is essentially hell, a layer of hell. Still working, but you got an Orcs chord today. Nice one. Thanks, amigo Roberto. Random American. You start typing and the screen jumps you around. Oh. Yeah, it was a very nice gift. Got a few things too. I got these Avengers sort of pajama pants, which I've been wearing like formal wear for the beaches because it was really, really hot. Yeah, James, I don't find it to be a bad book. It's just full of options, as we'd expected. How many weeks? I think she's about 6 to 10 weeks, I think. Yeah, she'll get along with the red dragon, or she'll chew up the red dragon's wing or something. You had your first TPK this weekend, Roberto. You'll get used to them. For thousands of years of lain dormant, who dares disturb my slumber? Oh, hey, it's AJ, what's up? Hey, not a dog. George, hello. Nice New Year's stash. Oh, thanks. I'm a dad. Oh, yeah, I'm a kitten dad now. That's true. I'm still half expecting it to be stolen by my parents anyway. Hey, thanks, Double Dad. First live stream super chat of the year. Congratulations. A lot of D&D YouTubers are doing their 2021 wish list for Dungeons & Dragons. What's yours? As you know, I don't generally do those sort of things. What would be my wish list for 2021? I hope to see the end of the Dragonlance shenanigans and actually see some products come out for Dragonlance. Speaking of which, the next video which I upload will be this monstrous 7-page long script, which is mostly related directly back to all of the listings, very comprehensive listings for Draconians in the Monster Compendium for Second Edition AD&D. I found some resources, but really they are very easy to adapt over to 5th edition. So I was mostly just covering what differentiates the different Draconians from each other, and a little, like a hint of their history, but not going into any great depth of the involvement of the Draconian in like Kryn history, because Kryn history has a niche interest to people. They're more interested, I think, the majority of the audience of D&D is more interested in using Draconians as an alternative to half-dragons and Dragonborn, or a new race that's popping up on their game world. I don't know how many people actually run raw Dragonlance, like as a world setting. A vocal few, but I think it's a vast majority of people in 5th edition either run homebrew or they run a Realms homebrew equivalent. But that's my take. Other stuff I'd like to see is more support from the official Dungeons & Dragons channels for small creators like me and Corey and Jordan and various others. Just a nod in our general direction for live streaming events and stuff like that would be nicer this year than the total shutdown we had last year because of controversy, which wasn't our fault. Wizards of the Coast generated its own controversy. We just sort of reported it. We didn't start it. All the kinds of Draconians. Of course, it's going to be like, it's a long ass video. Yeah, the Dragonlance lawsuit got dropped, which is why I'm saying an end to the shenanigans. I'm hoping to see what the outcome of that behind the scenes wrangling was. Chickens in Arizona. Arizona. Yeah, well, chickens are everywhere. Hey, Faith. I've had a weird question, AJ. What happens when a centaur is affected by a were-curse? How does its hybrid form look like? It looks like a regular hybrid form of a centaur. It doesn't lose its limbs until it goes full animal. So, I know it's a bit weird. So it literally looks like a centaur with a half humanoid werewolf body. A centaur werewolf, essentially. Draconians are cooler than Dragonborn. Changed my mind. I can break glory, quite simply. They're just different. Half dragons are mostly dragon when you think about it. Mostly dragon. The Dragonborn are humanoids who have been transformed in some point in their past into draconic life forms. So they'll always have a little bit of mammal about them. And so they're not exactly accepted into dragon society. And Draconians are a mutant subversion of what dragons are supposed to be. So I'll get into this in detail in the video, but the reason why the three wizards who got together to create the Draconians in the first place can get more than one Draconian per egg of metallic dragon that they corrupt and mutate is because they were porting in devil souls of the Abishai from the Nine Hells. So that's why all of the Draconians are lawful evil rather than chaotic evil, which is, you would think that Takesis would create chaotic evil troops, but no. She actually drew on her aspect in the Nine Hells, which is Tiamat. It's very interesting. And it sort of hints that the Nine Hells, there's not a separate Nine Hells for each different realm. It's always the same Nine Hells. It's involved in all these different worlds. So Takesis is using powers of her aspect in the Nine Hells as Tiamat. We might get another setting book, true. There hasn't really been a major update of Dragonlance since 3rd edition, maybe even 2nd edition. Dark Sun, of course, has had a more recent update with 4th edition, so that might happen too. Yeah, it was a surprise to me as well, Bright Glory. I was like, I did not know that. I wonder if other people know that. Stuff that you did not know about Dragonborn. Stuff they didn't tell you about Dragonborn and Draconians. Well, Ravenloft had its box sets and stuff. Or Innistrad, yeah, maybe Innistrad is more likely. I think I would like to see some more support, maybe a Dominaria world setting for D&D. I think that might be on the cards. I would hope that they're working on that. Centaurs with Were-Tiger lycanthropy turn into Wemmicks. Yeah, essentially. Could a doppelganger mimic a half-dragon? Yeah, sure. It wouldn't have a breath weapon or anything, but it could certainly mimic the form. How come your comments keep getting clipped, John? How would you create an original horrific Lovecraftian enemy for the tabletop, like False Hydra or those Lithids made shapeshifting blobs? I would basically use one of the existing monster templates and adapt from it on D&D Beyond homebrew section. I use D&D Beyond homebrew section. I always refer back to that if I'm doing a monstrous compendium animal or creature, and I look on D&D Beyond homebrew to see if anybody's made a hybrid, a 5th edition version of that creature already. Quite often they have. With the Draconians, it's a kind of a hit and miss. There's like one really good listing for the Aurak Draconians, which were challenge rating 10, which is appropriate because they're like the toughest of the Draconians. But the others range from like 2 to 5, which is more typical for humanoids creatures. But Draconians in Dragonlance, I think, were quite challenging. There is 3.5 stuff for Dragonlance, but I thought there might be. Give us Spelljammer! Warforged Mimic Charmer, yeah. Could you tame mimics to form armor and weapons that wouldn't immediately eat you? Yes, you can. It's quite possible to have intelligent mimics. That's in the lore, so yeah, there could be. Is it possible to combine different kinds of magic for different purposes? For example, raising up burning skeletons and icy zombies, or using biomancy and necromancy to create horrors? Yeah. Everything's possible, man. Everything. That's why I'll never tell you how to run your game. I may hint in the ways that the game has traditionally been played, but there's no way I'll even limit what you want to do in your own game. How could I? Phyrexians from Dominaria and D&D would be cool. Yeah, cool and also terrifying, but cool. It's like the ultimate dream of Thay, right? And in some ways, like this is getting pretty esoteric and nerdy, but in some ways the the sort of necro incursion of Phyrexia is kind of like the taint of the Abyss with demons, except they're like undead demons. See what I mean? It's like the necromancy is taking over. I really like that, where it becomes the new form of life, a techno necromancy. Are you ever going to do a collaboration video with other YouTubers? I do, Ploxon, fairly frequently, by YouTuber standards these days. It used to be the collabs between channels were a lot more common. These days, not so much, and we're all sort of doing our own thing. For the most part, I'm just working through my lists of things to do, usually viewer requests and a few other weirder things which are of my interest. So I don't have a lot of time to talk to other YouTubers, and they're very busy as well. Particularly when you get up to the level of doing 2 videos per week with a live stream on the weekend, which is what I do. It's a bit more intensive, and working around other people's schedules overseas with their timing and stuff is kind of tricky as well. Even though I've got an advantage of like being a typical night owl YouTuber. I see nothing wrong with Warforged having mimics tamed and usable as a disguise or something like that, like a second skin. I think that's a great idea. Because like when the Warforged, because the Warforged is usually quite bulky, so if you had a specialist Warforged who was designed for that, they would be like a skeletal Warforged, just the bare bones, quite a frail sort of skeletal structure with limited muscle fiber and stuff, so they'd look like gaunt and quite scary, like a Doctor Doom sort of cloak, and then you've got this thing that morphs and moves over top of them, and all of a sudden they look like a regular person. That would freak people out. Essentially, you've got a T-1000 Terminator, which I think is a fantastic idea. Do you have any suggestions for stuff or flavours in Arcanoloth would be interested in? Well, they are mercenaries. They're quite smart. They're very book smart. They're one of the more sneaky and tricky manipulators of their kind, the Loths, the Yugoloths. They're interested in money, essentially, money and the power that it brings, and the ability to manipulate people using money, using their supreme amounts of wealth. Do I know anything about the Binder class from the Tome of Magic 3.5 book? No, not yet. It's not a proper Draconia if it does explode on death. Well, as we know, they've all got their different styles. Only one of them explodes on death. You hear that Takesis and Tiamat are different goddesses. If they meet, like if their different aspects meet in a neutral setting, then they would be different goddesses. But they can operate as the same goddess as well, because that's what gods do. Hey, Rob Wilson. We're just talking about Dragonlance and stuff. Hey, thanks, Moonring. Could you do a video on the binder from Tome of Magic? Sure. Be happy to. Why are your comments all being held, John? Have you been naughty on other live streams? It might be the fetishistic. Why do so many demons in the Book of Fiends so squicky and fetishistic? Because of the temptation aspect of it, and they're a subversion of, like, demons are a subversion of the emotions that humans and other beings suffer from. So, for instance, was particularly the Tanari, because when the Queen of Chaos was creating the Tanari, she drew on existing evils. And those were the strong psychic threads that were leading through the astral plane, and she was trying to capture souls and stuff like that and put them into the abyss. So she was funneling emotions, strong emotions, into the abyss and causing it to react and spore these different types of demons. So Nalfeshni are demons of, I think it's greed or something like that. Demogorgon, of course, is a demon that is spawned from the nightmares of humans. Also, this year I'm going to be exploring the concept that there was an original world, an original multiverse that wasn't exactly a multiverse, and that is where the origin of some iconic species which don't have origin stories comes from. So we're going to be talking about the Spellweavers and Yergel and Pyramids of Asgore and stuff. If in case anybody wants to put some like really deep cosmology into their D&D game or hint at it. I say I love you. I do what I want. Yeah, it's true. It's true. I do what I want. Hey, Sinzu. Do I have any favourite puzzles to throw at players? Traditionally, my players don't like puzzles, so I avoid them. I like the idea of puzzles, but they don't often work out very well in my games. The best puzzles are ones where you have cutouts and the certain players around the table can work on the puzzle while the other people are talking and doing stuff in character. So interactive puzzles where they can move around tiles and things like that are some of the best tables for actual gameplay, if you ask me. Riddles and things like that are not as good. Simple basic arithmetic and things and pattern recognition are the best ones, like flipping over tiles and trying to remember where the last tile was that you flipped over. Like those are good puzzles. The other thing is in dungeons I like multi-part puzzles. So you have a theme which is running through that particular scene, that particular encounter. Say it's yellow and the number 2 and a snake symbol. Those would be present in other areas of the dungeon to sort of like there would be a bit that you solve to figure out that, oh, snakes are significant somehow or are going to be significant. Maybe they're part of the religion of the person who made this dungeon in the first place. The colour yellow is represented in gold and different gems and like tiles and things like that around the dungeon. So it's like there's a theme of yellow being dominant, and then the number 2 would be you could have 2 different rooms or corridors which are split in 2 and things like that. So there'd be pairs of doors and things for no reason. It'd be like, okay, 2 is significant for some reason, and then you get to the puzzle at the end and it's like, yellow 2 snake. You figured it out because you've spent the time exploring the rest of the dungeon and paying attention. I think I have a Leonin video planned if I have not done one already. I've talked about them generally in the Theros thing, but I haven't done a specific video on them. I think that's the case. Do you prefer Hordlings as demons or their own fiend? Oh, that's a specific question. I don't know yet. I'll have to look into it. Would what include the Aboleth? Oh, you mean the before times? Maybe. No, Zazek. So you may notice that I'm not drinking a Long Island iced tea because it's 11:22 a.m. in the morning, and I've decided that I'm not going to start my day eating hefty cheeses. I'm kind of over the blue cheese at the moment. I've eaten a lot of blue cheese, like blue cheese every single weekend for an entire couple of 2 years. It's a bit too much. Oh, and also, I'm just drinking coffee. I've got some breakfast snacks next to me, but I'm not eating on streams because some people don't like the squidgy sounds. Jesse, my attitude towards Asmodeus is that he's iconic, right? He's part of... You can't really have the Nine Hells without Asmodeus. So as far as I'm concerned, yes, he's a greater god. Because he gets mentioned so often, he's obviously of prime importance. Just like Primus, Primus isn't technically a god. He's more like an aspect of the plane of Mechanus. He's necessary. So, like, if Primus gets killed, a Modron steps into become Primus. He's eternal. He's unkillable. He's truly immortal. Because we need him to be. It doesn't necessarily need to be a game aspect thing. It's just like, well, how powerful is Asmodeus? As powerful as he needs to be to always be there, essentially. Hey, Bulgaria. Nice to see you. What's the hierarchy like among Draconians? What do they revere? Well, they revere money, their freedom, and their ability to drink and make nasty. Essentially, that's what they do. Now that when the Dragonlance Wars were over, the hierarchy of the Draconians basically came down to their abilities. So the Orcs are the most potent spellcasters and physically powerful. The Kazakh are pretty physically powerful as well, and the Baz are on the bottom of the pecking order. But there's also a Proto-Draconian, which I mentioned as well in the video. So we'll learn all about that pretty soon. Happy New Year, Mr. L. I heard in another video compiling fan-made horror enemies of someone putting a slime in a cramped cell and filling the rest of the cell with diseased corpses. It was a plague slime. Yeah, sounds about right. Hey, thanks, Jimmy. He is the avatar of the hive mind of Mechanus. Right, exactly. Yeah, Primus is like an extension of Mechanus itself. That's how I figure him. 2021 year of the Fijoa streams. Could be. And guavas of other kinds. I love that. Asmodeus is the closest thing that humans have to a living creator god. Well, that's what he'd like them to think, Deviled Ham. That's what 4th edition may possibly hint at, but that's not the case. Draconian hierarchy is similar to metallic dragons. Yeah, they're not nice beings. They're not nice creatures. Is it possible? Somebody's inevitably going to ask, is it possible to have a good Draconian? Yes, I suppose so. They're raised from birth and like heavily punished for bad behavior and stuff, because they do have a lawful evil aspect to them, so they can conform to rigid hierarchy. And if the only way for them to get anything is to do good deeds, they may not feel good, but they will do good because it's been hammered into them. So they do good because of consequences. They don't do good because of inclination. Evil creatures that are kind of like racially evil are gonna be evil towards every other race. Then they'll be mean to each other as well. Like the Draconians, if just left to their own devices, will kind of tear each other apart. The Baz and the Baz and the I can't even remember the name. Hang on, I'm referring back to the script. Where are we? Not the Civacs. Oh, the other interesting thing about Draconians is that some of them can fly and some of them can't. There's only 2 that are capable of any kind of flight. Is the Capac or the... Yeah, the Capacs and the Baz hate each other with a passion. So if you leave the Capacs and the Baz together, they will hurt each other. Bozaks kind of avoid the rest of the Draconians because they're off like worshipping Takesis in the bush somewhere. Civacs fly, yeah. Civacs and Bozaks. Bozaks more like glide. Yeah, there was He Who Was in 4th edition lore, which is... I haven't seen Wonder Woman 1984. No spoilers, please. What was I saying? 4th edition lore, yeah. 4th edition lore reflects one like little obscure bit of 2nd edition lore, I think. Like Mike Mills just sort of flew with that. I mean, yeah, good Draconians are possible. Can you change someone's intrinsic alignment with a wish? I think so, yeah. I mean, alignment's kind of not so hard-assed these days. In 5th edition, alignment is like a... it's an optional extra that you can throw in there. But the game design itself is not pivotal around alignment. Very few things are limited to alignments and stuff like that in 5th edition. Because they expect us to just roleplay it. Would you talk about Kang's regiment? He is a prominent Bozak Draconian, unsure if he ever became good. Bear in mind, like, this is 7 pages of information on the Draconians, and I haven't even gone into details on specific Draconians and stuff. It's just bare information on what the Draconians are for somebody who has no understanding of what Draconians are in the first place. So it tells you when they were created, who they were created by, why they were created, what their general status is now, and information on each individual type of Bozak, of Draconian. So that covers a lot of information, but it's not going into any great depth. If I carry on talking about Dragonlance, more information will unfold about their involvement and stuff. What's the requirement for a dragon to learn to shape change into a humanoid? Age, colour, something else? 5e seems to restrict it to metallics. Yeah, it's been restricted to metallics for a while. That's just the focus of metallics for some reason. Doesn't mean that chromatics can't learn spells to polymorph themselves. They're not immune to polymorph spells. So it would make sense that one of the first things they would achieve is the ability to do what their brethren can do, because they don't want to be outdone by the metallics. But for the most part, metallics are comfortable interacting with humanoids and transforming into that much weaker state because they have confidence in themselves and their allies, whereas the chromatic dragons usually wouldn't. If they did transform into a humanoid, they would do it secretly, and they would not want to let anyone else know that they're in a vulnerable state, so they would disguise themselves, and they would do it in secret. So they would do it more like espionage and stuff like that. They wouldn't walk around in humanoid shape for anybody else's comfort, that's for sure. What do I think of the idea of an interplanar talent show with judges including angels, devils, etc.? PCs doing skill checks to perform to appeal to certain judges to the highest average score. Sounds like something that would be perfect for like a tavern or an arena in Sigil. Do dragons have a fermented drink, and can they get drunk? If they're not immune to poison, then they can get intoxicated, generally speaking. Like I say, if you need dragons to get drunk in your game for your particular purpose of storytelling, then yes, they can get drunk. Otherwise, generally they wouldn't. Alignment is dumb. Everyone should be morally complex. They are morally complex. Like, alignment is sort of shifted towards what's the perspective that humans have of that species. That's how alignment has traditionally been seen. So kobolds are good to other kobolds, and they're good to other dragon kind, and they're evil to humanoids. You see what I mean? So from a dragon's point of view, a kobold has got a different alignment than what a human elf or dwarf would see the kobold's alignment as. So it's subjective, you could say. Hey Microarray, I've been good. I've been exposed to copious amounts of solar and geothermal radiation. Draconians can certainly get drunk, and they have the same metabolism as dragons. Although it's noted in certain parts that Draconians, although they get drunk, it doesn't affect their motor neuron functionality for combat. So no matter how drunk they get, they're still effective in combat, which is a scary thought. Oh, you specify it up to my preference. Yeah. I don't know if dragons have their own alcohol. I think it's certainly a possibility. There is some interesting story stuff, particularly related to Rifflebark and dragons experimenting with cuisine. Hey, Scorch. Chromatic in human form. Prime example, Jordan Furcag. He turned into a human to lure the Baldur's Gate 2 protagonist into a trap. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think dragons would probably invent some sort of magic booze. Even evil men have complexities that would leave you to think they could be good men. Yeah, that's part of the appeal, really. Having a villain who's just straight up evil is kind of boring. Having a villain who's doing evil because of the greater good from their perspective is more interesting. So my dog and cat see in different alignments. Yes, they do. Now I want to see what a drunk dragon looks like. A mess. A sloppy mess. Yeah, exactly, Sky. So dragons would not want to get drunk because they're constantly worried about being attacked by other dragons. Catapult the Minotaur. Nice. Can Ixodzigittals get drunk? Yes. In theory. It's hard to get drunk when you breathe water. Imagine just walking to a dragon's lair and finding an entire brewery manned by kobolds to make their beer. Beer? Would they be making beer, or would they be like making arsenic absinthe? What are some monsters in the Dragonlance setting that would hunt and cull the dragon wormlings? Draconians. Like if the Draconians break into a dragon's nest looking for eggs that they can capture, like particularly the Baz Draconians are still doing that, even though they've got no means of making more Dragonborn, they're still stockpiling eggs. So if they encounter some dragon wormlings of good dragons, they'll kill them. Yeah, Drunk Steel or Song Dragon, same thing, would be more likely, I think. Pure evil villains have their place, for sure. I'm not saying they're... I'm saying it's just a little more interesting to roleplay that. They certainly can be fun. Yeah, I'm of the opinion that dragons possibly wouldn't drink beer. They would go for something harder. Can you brew blood? Probably. You can brew pretty much anything organic, I suppose. You'd still have to mix in some sugars and stuff with it because the yeasts would have a hard time with blood on its own. It doesn't have enough sugar. Dragon Everclear. That's a good question, Mark. How long does a dragon egg last? It varies, of course. Dragons typically, like, take the catastrophic dragon eggs, for instance, the nodes, the explosive shells of elemental energy. Those need to stay in the environment that they were spawned in order to stay stable. Metallic dragons and chromatic dragons tend to lay their eggs in places where they absorb a lot of the environmental energy that the dragon then later channels. So it influences the dragon's behavior and development, depending on what sort of elemental exposure they have. So green dragons are buried in like slime and stuff and swamps and things in forests. And like a red dragon would have its eggs in magma, you know. Blood sugar, yeah. Diabetic blood. So if you take them out of that environment, like if a dragon egg has been sitting and gestating in lava, it's hard to replicate that while taking it out of that environment. In which case it might hatch slower or it might hatch faster, depending on story. Blood nog. Oh, gah. Blood cheese, more like. Dragons get drunk on gold? Yeah. Linking. Oh, man. Imagine brewing some sort of metallic alcohol. That'd be crazy. Don't forget there's also cave fishes. Cave fisher blood might be exactly what dragons like. Goldschlager. Yeah, Blood Nog got me as well. Hey, Ginger Beer. Fool's Gold Beer. Blood Margarita is a Vampire Exodarchital's favourite drink. Yeah, don't forget those Vampire Exodarchitals are technically still alive. They're not undead yet. So they'd still drink regular things. Yep. I guess all the metallic dragons can drink and enjoy alcohol. I don't know if they get drunk though, because it's just not enough. Even while they're compressed into humanoid form, their mass and stuff is still draconic. I've got an old video on dragon turtles, microarray. That probably needs an update. I like the starting music of that video. Oh yeah, the rock video. Yep, that's on the way. Yeah, vampires can eat and drink regular food, but it's not going to go anywhere. It just forces through their dead digestive system, and when it comes out the other end, it's basically rotten dirt, soil. It's gross. And they don't have any muscles that automatically do that process, so they actually have to squeeze it out the other end or vomit it back up. So it's actually quite difficult for a dead person to process food. They're essentially just shoving it through a tube. So, like a vampire which is at a banquet mimicking a humanoid eating food would essentially be shoving it into their stomach, and their stomach doesn't automatically empty once the digestive process is sort of started. It doesn't deposit food into their... it wouldn't go the normal sort of way. Hey, Deming Inquisition, how's it going? So they'd have to like surreptitiously like shove it into their lower digestive system. What they could do perhaps is essentially just spike themselves with a metal tube and make a like a colostomy bag which is shoved straight into their stomach. Yeah, cut it out when it's done. Yeah, don't forget though that they don't necessarily like mutating themselves. They're not like a regular undead. They still have a semblance of... They still have memories of life. Even though they are a foul, evil creature that is just using those memories in order to collect copious amounts of blood. Yeah, undead sausage, exactly. Ah, Mage Hand. That's a good idea. Cast Mage Hand to digest. Yeah, conclusion, don't make a vampire eat solid food. In most lore, popular media in particular, it results in the vampire vomiting copiously. Yeah, I think that's a good one. Cowweird poo. Thanks, Jimmy. Yeah, I like the idea of like the vampire having to surreptitiously deal with it somehow. Ravasta. No, I'd have to look that one up. Any relation to the Rakshasa? You spent $5 to say that. I salute you. I salute him too. Nice. Can undead feel pain? No. Their existence is torment, but they can't feel physical pain, typically. Yeah, vampires would be like wine tasting. Yeah, it's like, the steak is delicious. I'm playing Curse of Strahd. My character has fears. Nice. Yeah, they feel heartache. They feel heartache and mental torture. That's right. In my opinion, what does unaligned mean? It means behaving according to instinct, having no personal compulsions or desires outside of the basics of survival. It's typically what an animal is. So animals don't think about what they like. They don't ponder the moral consequences of what they're doing. So a lion will be a lion. You know what I mean? They don't feel guilt, or they don't like plot revenge and things like that. So shouldn't zombies be unaligned then? Yeah, tricky. I think that's a holdover from when alignment spells and stuff like that were kind of typical. So they would say that a zombie has like an evil alignment because it's an evil thing. But you're right, they don't really have an alignment. They just do what they're told to do. So same could be said about a golem. A golem should be unaligned because they don't really think. Dogs feel guilt. Yeah. I'm just making general statements. Yeah, I usually think about cats when it comes to like doing stuff and not feeling like what they're doing is evil. Like it clearly looks what you're doing to that mouse is clearly evil. The cat's just like, what do you mean? It moves. I whack it with my claws. I don't want to kill it yet because I'm learning how it moves when it's injured. Is a cat pleased by this? A cat's engaged by that for sure. A cat is paying maximum attention to an injured animal because its instincts tell them that that's a thing of absolute fascination that you should focus on. Not necessarily, I'm going to injure it and watch it slowly suffer and die. Ha 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 ha. I mean, there's a small amount of that. But for cats, mainly, it's just like, ooh, I'm going to get the most interesting thing I can find, which is an injured game animal that I can eat. It is pleasing for me to look at this thing. Because its instincts are rewarding it for, and furthering its chances of survival. It's like, I have food readily available. Ha ha ha. I'm satisfied with my role as cat. From 4th edition, so don't blame you, they apparently evolved from a banished group of Arcanoloths. Scholars say that they and Rakshasa came from Arcanoloths, but Rakshasa don't agree. Right. Yeah, that's a good one. Because Divas and Rakshasas have a relationship in 4th edition, which I don't think is reflected in other lore in the game. But I really actually like that Rakshasas were a flip side of Divas who have become evil over time. And it's possible for them to become reformed and flip back to being Divas again. I like that idea. A soul which is stuck reincarnating on Primaterial Plane. Hey, Comic Nut. Who doesn't love cats? I love cats. Zombies don't really do that. No, you're thinking of like skeletons, which are animated by a dark spirit. Zombies are basically just meat that's guided by the spellcaster. Any undead that has to be directed by the spellcaster giving up their action to command the thing to do something, and it says it just repeats doing that until it stops. That's like a zombie, right? It doesn't have a mind, doesn't have a mentality that's driving it to do things. Skeletons, on the other hand, that have some semblance of self-motivation, they will kill. Cat chain devil. AJ, you helped me make the character for Curse of Strahd. Your Glasner video gave me the ideas for a warlock of her. Oh, awesome. Thanks, man. Cats are the greatest. You have 3? Nice. Tabaxi Monk. Zoom. Hey, thanks, Morgan. So dragons are very big cats. Yeah, in a way. That's like, when we try and understand predators, we relate them to the predators that we understand the most. We have the most exposure to cats and dogs as our basis of what predators are. Cats are abject carnivores, so they only eat meat. Dogs can have a varied diet and can eat other things. They can eat like human leftovers and stuff, but you should never feed cats anything other than meat, animal products, right? So cats are more predatory in a way than dogs. Dogs are looking for opportunities to eat anything that they can. They'll get game and stuff when they can, but they will eat any leftovers and stuff that they can find. Cats, on the other hand, are straight up predators. So if you want to understand a straight up predator, that would be a cat. Dragons are top of the food chain, but they also have a much varied diet likes dogs, they can eat anything that comes along. They prefer to be cats and eat stuff that was alive at some stage that they've killed and eaten, but it's not necessary. They can survive on other things. Typically, they are like cats in that when they get hungry, it's like, right, it's time to hunt. And they will make preparations and they'll go off and they'll do their ritualistic hunting, which they've greatly enjoyed. They prefer to do it as a dragon. So when you think about it, in their day-to-day life, a metallic dragon that's transformed into a humanoid is eating like snacks. Every single meal they have is just a little bit of food. It's more like play-acting eating. But when they need to actually eat, then it's like once every few weeks or so, they will make their excuses, go off, take on dragon form, go and eat a cow or two, and gorge themselves, and then rest, and then they'll transform back into a humanoid shape and resume their snacking. Thanks, Mick. Some liches are actually lawful good. Well, what I usually say is that liches by definition are quite evil. When it's not an evil lich, it's not a lich. It's something else. It should have a different name, like a Balnorn or something like that. Dragonettes are like pet dragons. Yep. Hi, Brian. If they're not evil, they're not a lich, basically. I'm all in favour of like good liches, just don't call them liches, call them something else. AJ's hat is made of bodak skin. I've got my other hat, which is made of grey render hide. It's very nice. Looks similar, but of course, you know, to the true aficionado, it's entirely different. Are there non-humanoid dragon liches? Ooh. No, undead dragons are a reasonably recent thing, thanks to Samaster. So there hasn't been a lot of experimentation, and I think dragons would be objected. They would object to their remains being turned into a zombie or something like that. Certainly, they do exist. There is a Dragon Magazine article on various types of undead dragons, which I think I might go into in some detail later on. That'd be a good video, wouldn't it? Undead dragon types. I'd really love to do a collab with you, but I don't have anything of a following on YouTube. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. The size of a channel has no relation to whether I'll do a collab with them or not. What if a Balnorn is a good lich? How do they differ from normal liches? They're not a lich, they're a Balnorn. That's why they have a different name. Technically, they're liches, but they're different enough to have a different name. Chat always devolves into lich talk 7 out of 10 times. Hey Travis. Yeah, we've got like 8 minutes of the live stream left. So 2021 is the year that I talk about elven history and finally do a video on elves. Also, I've got a plan of going over the different areas of the realms and just doing a grand tour of it. It's the difference between grey orcs and mountain orcs. Well, they're the same. You could say mountain orcs are the more sort of pig-faced orcs, whereas the Thayan orcs are more humanoid-ish orcs. Thayan orcs are more evolved, more civilized, and but they are nomadic, whereas the mountain orcs are more devolved, savage, but they're also stationary, so they camp out in fortresses. And they prefer to take over the abandoned fortresses of dwarves. And the dwarves don't like this and are always trying to take back their fortresses from orcs. If Bale Norns are technically Liches, then aren't they linked to Orcus by default? Yeah, if you want to play that aspect of Orcus. Will I be doing Deeper Mascari this year? Yes. I like the idea of mortals becoming liches so long ago, something their mind was never meant for, just lose it and can't remember why and just become neutral evil. Yeah, pretty much. They lose their humanity. That's a common thread with the liches. So even if they have good intentions, the lack of any physical feeling, just being a mind which is walking around in a corpse, has an effect on your psyche, for sure. We're devolving to talking about knife ears? Hey, I'm not going to hold any punches on Elven history. That's true, Robert. What do you think of or is there an example of magic gone cyberpunk or Blade Runner? Well, I would say that Eberron is a perfect example of that. Was it considered wrong for my lizard folk to then consider eating orcs just like eating pork? No, there's nothing wrong with that. That's exactly what a lizard folk would say. Tastes like pig. That's exactly what a lizard folk would say. Somebody asks them what does an orc taste like, they'd say, tastes like pork. Tastes like pork. Sufficiently advanced technology is magic in essence, yeah. I did have a good time off, Joseph. Thanks for asking. And I guess I'll wrap up the live stream. Have you seen Ed Greenwood's subtle comments about orcs on Twitter? He keeps sliding in things like they will eventually become the most dominant humanoid species. Yeah, but that's because of birth rate and stuff like that. Currently in the Forgotten Realms history, as of today, the orc hordes from the far north rampaging down to the south is about 60 years overdue, and there's a reason for that. Which has got to do with Ripplebark, and it's got to do with a particular song dragon in Waterdeep, which I'll be talking about later. AJ's Guide to Liches. What is or what is not a lich, and what you should call them. Have you mispronounced your lich today? The Thayan Guidebook for correctly addressing the undead. Lizard folk eat what want, yes. Eating vegetable haktis. Food is food. Yeah. Could a lich... Who's asking all these lich questions? Zazek. Could a lich do a memento kind of thing where it forgets everything and resets its goodness each time it uses its phylactery? You know, when it's using its phylactery, what they mean by using its phylactery is they're feeding the soul of an innocent person into outer torment in order to sustain their unnatural existence, right? They're feeding a soul into basically a screaming void in order to create a link between them and the negative energy plane. A buffer, if you will, that allows them to sustain their unnatural existence instead of crumbling to dust like they should. Yeah, because liches are evil, man. Evil. Even the good liches have to sustain themselves somehow, and they do that by draining the life from a forest over thousands of years. Diet souls. What if it's a bad person? Can I feed bad persons into my phylactery? That makes me good, right? No, you've still murdered somebody. Good people don't murder bad people to be good. It's like, oh no, I'm just imprisoning the soul temporarily in the phylactery and it's going to pass on to the afterlife. I'm sure. No. AJ's Lich ASMR. You feel nothing. Never talk to me about your orc pork, please. Lizard folk coming up and greeting somebody and going poke, poke. Meaty ribs. Eating bad people still makes you accountable, that's right. Would lizard folk think elves taste like veggies? No, they'd think it tastes like veal. but halflings are the most flavorful humanoids. Yeah, halflings taste the best out of all the humanoids. This is well established. Like addictive level. Like they're like the lobster of humanoids. To the creatures that eat humanoids, halflings are like the creme de la creme. Thanks, Rational Redneck. Question about on the Tressum video. Why didn't you talk about the plot for world domination that Tressums have? Because then it would be like, no. Well, I'm sworn to secrecy. Thanks, amigo. Hey, I appreciate all you do, especially AJ, but I really like this community. Stay classy, you crazy diamonds. Yeah, that's a good note to end the stream on. Stay classy, everyone. I will see you again next weekend. So the next live stream will be coming up quick. And you can expect from me a Draconian video very shortly. And I'll get back into the swing of things, slowly winding out of holiday mode. You know how it is. Back to work. I was like, I was writing the script, I was going, ooh, this seems to be quite long. How many pages is it? 7 pages! So, we're starting off with a bang. Dwarves are already marinated, yeah. You know the stream's getting funky when to talk about eating humanoids. Adios, everyone.